It's said that one's life flashes before their eyes as they're about to die. Shuichi could remember his father on his deathbed, telling him to take care of his family. He sees his mother, giving him his favorite omelette right before school. He also sees his sister, Asura, who he tells to listen to their mother well. Unfortunately, even his bullies are vivid in his mind, along with the painful memory of how they beat him every day. The main thug laughed at him for trying to save a girl they were preying on. After the beating, even she told him to stay away and look out for himself. As the cherry on top of the cake of misfortune, a truck driver accidentally ran over him on a rainy day. Laying on the wet ground, wondering if he was going to die, he thought about his family and apologized for failing to protect them. Although he cursed this life, he promised to protect his loved ones in the next. With this vow, he drew his last breath under the touch of an unknown spirit. In the magic continent of Arcanas, people of faith gathered around to watch the annual divine blessing ceremony. Children under 6 will offer their most prized possession to God, and if this is accepted, a divine messenger shall be sent forth to grant the child a chance to become a mage. A poor boy asks his mother if some candy is enough, but she says it must be something expensive. One would need precious gemstones for a higher chance, just like the next lady has brought. Speaking of which, there are rumors that the Ryan family dumped all their fortune for the blessing. The onlookers watched as the family in question walked forward, risking it all in hopes of striking big. Holt, the head of the family, also knows how big of a gamble this was. Luke and Julia are the sharpest among his children and are sure to receive high blessings. The host called for the next applicant, and the little daughter lightly walked toward the altar. There, she placed a golden crown adorned with jewels, prompting a huge magic circle to appear beneath her feet. It sparked with blue lightning, a sign of being blessed by Kai, the god of thunder. What's more, it's a high level 7, which was last given 12 years ago. The sheer talent in addition to the blessing was amazing. The light died down, and the girl was back to normal after the ceremony. She offered the thunder crown, but people doubt that it cost the family's entire fortune. There was one more child, and it was obvious that the real treasure was going to come from him. Holt fixed Luke clothes, kneeling and silently putting everything in his hands. Their butler, Forden, opened a box and urged the boy to take the sword. From one look, the people immediately recognized the demonic energy, which came from none other than the progenitor of magic, Vulcanus, god of fire. Julia cheers her big brother on with a big smile, but the others can't believe that they would offer something so valuable. As rumors said, Holt really was betting everything on the young boy. Luke placed the blade on the altar, which immediately lit up with red flames. Similarly, the sky changed colors, as if turning into a sea of flames. Never having seen such a thing, they wonder if it's level 9, the highest possible blessing. Nearby sources of fire strengthened, and the boy was suddenly engulfed in a raging and powerful blaze. That said, the little one only looked up, barely feeling the heat as the blade was lifted in front of him. A small blot of fire jumped onto the back of his hand, seemingly harmless at first, but it grew abruptly and rapidly. Soon enough, he was screaming in pain and his soul was burning with his body. In front of him, the invaluable blade turned scarlet red from the heat and soon started melting right before his eyes. Just like that, the sky was back to normal. Onlookers wondered if the blessing was over and where the divine spirit was. Everyone is told to look towards the altar, where they see Luke's body being thrown out like a rag doll. Seeing his blank but tearful eyes, Julia screamed for her older brother, and their parents quickly rushed to the fallen boy. They shook his body, begging him to wake up while wondering how things turned out this way. The proctor, similarly shocked, explains that the god rejected him and his offering. He was forsaken by the progenitor of magic. Just then, a familiar spirit flew down to his body. In the realm of the fire god, filled with erupting volcanoes, a voice curses the Ryan family for offering the very power that nearly killed him. The sword still bears the mark from the unforgettable time when it struck him. Smaller spirits calmed him down, praising his generosity for burning just the child's soul. One reports that another soul entered his empty body and asks if they'll burn it as well. He refuses, unwilling to waste his time erasing something from an outer world. Moving on, the god of fire takes a look at the offerings he received. Left alone, Shuichi's spirit entered Luke's body, filling it with immense energy. In the realm of the martial gods, Mars meditated in silence. However, something disturbs his peaceful moment, so he steps forward, brimming with unrivaled power. The boundaries of the realm cracked and shattered under the soles of his feet. With a few more steps and a little more power, he shatters the realm itself, revealing a cosmic space surrounding him. There, he calls to the wellspring of power, an almighty being that governs the world, and arrogantly asks if it seeks to block his path to a higher dimension. Intending to do just that, the creature opened its maw and unleashed a burst of black energy, which ripped through the galaxy itself. It watched and checked the results of its attack, but its huge eyes only saw the martial god, speeding forward with his fist pulled back. One punch is all it takes to eliminate the governor of the world, whose entire body vaporizes from his strike. Still overflowing with power, Mars scoffs at the easy win, and watches as the blast from his punch opens a hole through the dimension. Alas, the wellspring of power was nothing special, at least compared to him. His victory is interrupted as a flash of light appears. It was an attendant spirit, which looked uncannily similar to him. Calling urgently, It stopped like a pet that was getting too close, and was asked why it was there. Mars then feels that his old blade and partner, Reku, had just been destroyed. As he questioned the events in Arcanas, the spirit shows Vulcan melting the blade in his hands. 1,000 years ago, martial arts was stronger than magic, but now the flame god was being worshipped. If Mars hadn't been so obsessed in his craft, then he, pathetic god, couldn't have run rampant. He turns away, feeling too burdened by the responsibility of spreading his martial arts. In all honesty, he has no interest in nurturing the next generation of martial artists, but he does have an undeniable duty to pass it on. After all, a tiny being, such as himself, must constantly devote himself to training, and nothing more. Opening his eyes, Shuchi sees balls of light, and wonders what was happening as he remembers dying from a traffic accident. Fully conscious, he sees 9 bodies of Mars looking intently at him, and he can't help but respond with a grim expression. The god maintains his nasty face, and says he's bestowing him with the blessing of the martial god. The boy, now in Luke's body, is silent and struggles to comprehend what was happening. As such, the impatient deity passionately repeats himself and shoots his power right into the boy's head. As soon as he does, he's blessed as promised, and the level cap for martial arts training is removed. His body was already overflowing with power, but he was still trying to understand it all. That said, the image of the ripped and muscular spirit was burned into his mind. His hands shook in confusion. He was hit by a truck and supposedly died. So why was he alive and going through so much? In that moment, countless memories rushed into his head, filling his entire being. Realizing he's Luke now, he questioned if the gods were playing with him by reincarnating him into the life of a boy who was forsaken by the divine. Additionally, he worries about Asusa and his mother, who'll have no one to provide for them. He was blessed by the god of martial arts, but doesn't even know anything about it. Before he could make sense of it, he saw a lollipop drop to the floor. Julia was by the door, crying as she walked toward the brother she thought was dead. Tears filled her eyes, and she jumped into his embrace while overwhelmed with relief. The others were saying that he wasn't going to wake up, so she was so terrified. Recognizing the girl, Luke assures her that there's nothing to worry about, and thinks about how devastated Asusa must be right now. He lost everything once, so he's going to do everything to protect his new family with the martial god's power. The moon was high in the sky. Back in the altar, the statue of the angel stood amid the silence. Suddenly, she began crying, and red tears dripped to her hands, soon overflowing onto the floor beneath her. From it, a woman emerged, saying the presence of the loathsome man had disappeared. Looking at Mars' image, she wonders if he died or simply left this realm. She had little to no power left after everything that happened. Still, she no longer needs to hide. Without the martial god, the world will soon be theirs anyway. 9 years later, in the Ryan family estate, a beautiful tune hummed as Luke basked under the beautiful sunlight. He decides to go to Julia, as she must be finishing up on her training. Something slithered nearby, but the young man notices it too late. The thorny vines had wrapped around his body, but he simply sighed in exasperation, already knowing who would pull such tricks against him. Behind him was Jeremy, his half-brother and 4th child of the family. He scoffs at Luke, who's known to be abandoned by the gods, and scolds him for entering the backyard that's reserved for mages. Tightening the grip of the vines, he considers breaking a few ribs to teach him a lesson he won't forget. To his surprise, the 8th child yawns uncaringly, and shares that his sister will be back from her magic training soon. Unless he, a level 5, wants to be burnt by her lightning, he should let go. Jeremy shudders from the threat, but insists that he isn't afraid of a little spark. Just then, the clouds turned dark, and a huge bolt of lightning struck his body. As warned, the flippant boy was burnt from being electrocuted. With the vines loose, Luke turns to see Julia, holding her pink scepter and promising no mercy if they bully her brother again. The little girl pouted in annoyance and worked fast to get the vines completely off her beloved brother. They fall under her strength. Pleased, the young man praises his sibling for doing so well as always, then turns to ask Jeremy if he's finally learned his lesson. Still reeling from being shocked, he and his maid run off, vowing to remember his sins. Considering how he was running, they confirm that Julia went easy with the last bolt. She then asks why Luke doesn't fight back when he can easily beat him up. He wants to keep his real strength a secret and asks her to protect him, which she'd love to do. The otherworlder smiles at her lovingly. 9 years have passed since he was reincarnated into someone else's body, and 9 years ago, Holt came to see him. He was certain he'd be kicked out for failing his house, but the father hugged him tight while crying, relieved that he was alive. The old man leads a night order, so he almost never sees his children. Even so, he's a good parent that truly cares for them. Upon finding out that Luke was training in martial arts, he immediately sent a letter, informing him about books in their archive that might help. With this, the boy ventured into their nearly abandoned library, and the letter allowed him to put a bold plan into action. From that day, the maids often called for the missing boy throughout the mansion, despite having mixed opinions on him. They often froze in shock, feeling the building shake and wondering if someone was practicing their earth magic. Completely in the dark, they had no idea that the shaking was being caused by Luke, who was proactively crushing the ground beneath the mansion. He spent 6 months creating a huge but secret room, and used it to build a training ground. There were elaborate areas for studying, training, storage, and lastly, a daily simple bathroom. Ever since finishing the space, he spent most of his time training in secret, and now the dummies he had could barely stand. The long day passed, and he ends it with a deep soak in the steaming medicinal bath, which is an efficient way to recover. It's been 3 years since he started learning the chaotic tempering technique, and now, any magic attack below level 6 won't even scratch him. His defense was taking a pretty solid shape. As for his offense, he approaches a dummy quietly. Gripping the hilt of his blade, he dashed forward and unleashed countless cuts in the blink of an eye. Not done yet, he tosses the sword away and replaces it with a spear, which he then uses to completely demolish a target into nothingness. His thunder spear increased to level 4, so he'll practice fist techniques a bit more. 9 years has given steady progress, but there's one thing bothering him. Martial artists are said to hit a hard limit upon reaching a certain level, unless they attain enlightenment. But this is a feat so difficult to achieve that most practitioners give up in despair, which is also why martial artists have grown scarce. Luke was different. With a deep breath, he gathers his energy and drives his fist deep into a large and sturdy target, breaking the dummy and cracking the wall behind it. His explosive fist was level 5, and unlike others, there were no limits to the levels he can reach. This is likely the effect of the martial god's divine blessing, given only to him. The clock chimed, and he's reminded that they're supposed to have a family dinner to celebrate Holt's return. Cleaning and clothing himself quickly, he heads over to the dining room where the rest of the family is waiting. It's been half a year since he saw his father, who now warmly welcomes him to the table. Accepting the invitation, he's told that he's been signed up for the Academy's newly opened martial arts department. It's a difficult path, but his father has full faith that he can pass if he prepares well. Luke gracefully accepts his father's efforts. He has to get stronger to protect his loved ones, but he still can't stand out too much. Just then, Julia suddenly raised her hand and says she wants to attend the Magic Academy with him. She'd usually be too young, but she argues that the elite class doesn't have an age restriction. In fact, she's already received an invitation and shows him the letter to prove it. After reading it thoroughly, the parents chuckle, proud that their daughter's reputation precedes her. While the two siblings laughed warmly, Jeremy scowled with hatred. He understands Julia's special treatment, but Luke's success is his shame. Noticing his expression, a set of fingers firmly pinched his side. It brings him back, and he's told to calm down, as there's no need to worry. His mother, Jessica, believes the boy won't pass the entrance exam anyway. She gives a sly and knowing smile. A week after the dinner, the departure day for the academy came. The two are told to take care, and are promised their favorite pudding once they get settled. They're handed a couple of lucky gold coins from their father. It's a relic from the unified world 10,000 years ago. Mars, the first emperor, is engraved on the front, and his weapons on the back. Seeing it, Luke recognizes the buff spirit that blessed him with his powers. With their warm goodbye, he can't help but see the image of his original family. He was lucky enough to get loving families in both his past and present lives. Finally, it was time for the siblings to leave. A few hours later, the carriage stopped to prepare a camp for the night. The campfire's smoke rose to the dark sky as Forden explained their timeline for the journey. Excited as they're arriving soon, Julia asks if there's anything interesting to do in town. There are a lot, including the Magic Dodgeball tournament in the spring. It's also quite famous for being a gourmet town with various foods. The little girl was already drooling from the thought. Luke smiled at her, but subtly turned after sensing something. A couple of kilometers away was a big group closing in on them fast. There are bandits in the area, but the chances of encountering them are supposedly low. In addition to his defense and offense, all his training also gave him sharp senses. With 4 adults and 1 kid, they had to move cautiously. He takes the lead and informs the old man about the fast approaching group. They're all confused, as even the guards are unable to hear a single bird chirp. Fortunately, Forden respected him completely and orders the others to get ready. He has no idea where the boy got the idea, but it's better to be safe than sorry. As warned, a group of bandits soon comes rushing in on horseback, and the guards are shocked that they're actually there. It seems their boss told them that the place was crawling with nobles heading to the academy. The evil men immediately set their sights on the 2 children, aiming to capture and sell them. To their surprise, the butler put himself between them with a sword in his hand. Not caring about his threats, the bandit leader orders his men to kill everyone except the kids. The smaller group also prepared. Horses charged at each other, and the sound of heavy metal soon rang through the forest. An enemy is knocked off balance, and can't even react as Forden immediately beheads him. He intended to handle it himself, to give his masters the chance to escape. Despite his age, he manages to strike several down, with the help of the other guards. Again, he tells the 2 kids to make a run for it. They turned upon hearing the screams of their ally. A couple of knights nearby were engulfed in flames. It was the work of the bandit leader, who unexpectedly seemed to be a skilled mage. Forden was distracted, but this is quickly taken advantage of in the middle of the battlefield. He finds his chest cut open. Luke wanted to obey and run with his sister, but was forced to watch his trusted butler stand his ground against the enemies, despite his condition. The leader was intent on avenging his dead comrade, but the butler was similarly determined to protect his young masters. He's only a level 2 martial artist, so there's no way he can win against a mage. Beside his parents, the old man has been the kindest to him, even as a child. At this point, he was practically part of their family, and he can't watch his family members be killed. Hiding his strength comes second now, so Luke tells Julia to hide well, while he goes off to help their precious butler. She hesitates, understandably worried about him, but doesn't discourage him from it. The young man walked across the battlefield, and Forden was still busy doing his best against the enemies. He was doing pretty well, but it was too much for one old person. One man managed to sneak up on the weakened fighter. Death was imminent, but the ambusher suddenly had half his body blown off. The others couldn't understand what happened, and before they could make sense of it, several others started losing their heads one by one. It was happening in the blink of an eye. A pebble in Luke's hand was imbued with power. His skill managed to reach level 4, just from hitting birds out of the sky for fun. The leader cursed it, still not knowing who killed his men in an instant. Furious, he summoned a huge magic circle, deciding to take the old man with him. A huge ball of fire flew toward Forden. He didn't even have the strength to dodge, but was glad that a mystery person saved the kids. The old man smiled as he accepted death. Unfortunately for him, his master wasn't going to let him rest so easily. Luke appeared before him and punched the spell into absolute nothingness. He was stunned, struggling to believe that the man coded in controlled power was his young master. Meanwhile, the bandit leader was starting to panic from his dispelled fireball. When he was about to try something else, his greatest enemy moved faster, saying he was already finished. Putting all his training to use, the martial artist punches and breaks the enemy's body apart. Forden was still in disbelief and asked the young man for any sort of explanation. Luke downplays his unprecedented skills, saying he seems to have a knack for martial arts. As the old man nearly cried in pride, they got serious upon noticing something happening behind. Flesh squirmed and crawled towards each other, and a monstrous figure born from crushed flesh and bones soon emerged in the night. An amalgamation of the corpses turned into a monster, which now wished nothing more than for the boy to die. Luke was stunned upon setting eyes on the horrid monster. Although it went in to kill him, the only thing in his mind was dealing with it before Julia sees. He disappears before it could reach. Not even giving it a chance to fight back, the young man gathers energy into his fist and drives it into the monster's face. That usually does the trick, but it surprisingly fails to do so this time around. The demonic eyes glowed, and thick chains suddenly shot out of its body. The ends latched onto the remaining corpses, grabbing and throwing them into the creature's gaping mouth. Taking a closer look, Luke sees a mark on the enemy's eye, and wonders if it's something controlling the dead. With big gulps, it swallowed the dead bandits and grew larger. On the other hand, the martial artist decides to try something else. As his usual hits won't work, having consumed enough to reach a human-like form, the enemy charged in to attack. As expected, it does nothing to Luke, who was waiting for it to get closer so he could unleash his power. Opening his palm up, he uses his explosive palm strike, which shoots a blast of aura that completely engulfs the target in front of him. Burning the purple seal off the beast, he manages to defeat the monster. As soon as he drops and sighs from exerting himself, he hears Julia's voice, running to him with a big smile on her face. Jumping in to hug him, she praises her big brother for beating up the bad guys. While Forden was still trying to grasp what happened, they suddenly heard more commotion nearby. A horse was neighing loudly, and a woman was bent over the troubled animal. She was bound and gagged, and seemed to be a victim of the bandits. In a dark cave somewhere, the one who emerged from the altar fed herself, and noted that a subject of hers had just died. Since restoring her own power was the priority, she decides to brush it off for now. The lady is freed, and she introduces herself as Maya. Her surname was familiar, and the nobles are sure that they've heard it somewhere before. Luke chimes in, saying the Rasta family is, like theirs, a noble lineage that lives near Daku. Asked how she ended up getting captured by the bandits, the girl couldn't stop her eyes from tearing up. They attacked their carriage a few hours ago, and cackled as they killed the guards one after the other, all in front of her. Even her maid and attendant were brutally murdered, while they were protecting her. It didn't matter how many times she claimed to be a noble, they just leered at her with malicious eyes. The goal was to kidnap the children of nobility, and she shudders at the thought. Julia tries to comfort her, saying they're all dead now. On the other hand, Luke stayed silent. Later on, Forden informed him that the two ladies have gone to rest. With just the two of them, he asks the butler what he thinks of Maya's words. He says the bandits are most likely professionals, who've been doing this for a while. They wielded magic, and even had the power to control the undead. It seems there's a terrifying demon hiding behind the scenes, and pulling the strings. The old man decides to report it to Holt and the Rasta family, which will help secure cooperation. Luke adds that he has a suggestion that'd let them avoid further troubles. The next day, they reach the town, but Julia protests upon hearing that they won't be sightseeing. Bandits might still be there, so it might be in their best interest to head straight to the academy. The brother asks her to understand that he's doing this for her and Maya's safety. With the older girl's agreement, the little one stays silent, trying hard to seem like a spoiled brat. Luke can't help but smile proudly and warmly. Knowing she was excited for the gourmet street, he promises to buy what she wants when they pass by later. They enter the town, and open the windows to excitedly peer out. The weather was perfect, and the outsiders were greeted by the mesmerizing scene of the town's everyday life. What was calm and common to others was bustling to them, especially as they're in the biggest town after the capital. The sight was something to behold indeed. Luke can't help but compare the atmosphere to his previous life, which was nostalgically similar. Just then, the scenic moment is shattered as a vendor appears by their window. Moving along, they pass by a few food stores and grab whatever Julia wants. Satisfied, the young girl smiled widely, even sharing her treats with their new friend. Luke could only smile at his little sister. The carriage stopped soon enough, and it was as far as Forden could take them. The son of the family promises to protect the daughter, who brightly vows to have his back in return. He playfully pats her head, saying he'll be counting on her to do so. The butler teared up, seeing the children he raised all grown. Meanwhile, Maya was delightfully intrigued by the young man being protected by his little sister. With this, the three of them walked through the gates, leaving their guardian to start their new journey. Seeing how kind the two were, she was glad to have met them by chance, especially Luke, who made her heart skip a beat. Last night, Forden suddenly remembered something while he and the boy were alone. Maya was once his fiancée, and the two were actually really close as children. However, the engagement was broken off by her family, after he was cast away by the gods. The Allen Magic Academy is one of the 3 most famous magic schools in the Empire. All freshmen take an exam after a year, and based on those results, they'll be sorted into departments based on their aptitude. Only after making it through 6 years of schooling will they earn a qualification of a mage. That said, they have special exceptions for exceptional students. Anyone who passes the mage certification exam can graduate early. Julia pouts in disappointment, having wanted to take the entrance exam with Maya. The young lady took the exam first thing in the morning, escorted by her family. Luke assures her that they'll meet again, as long as they all pass the exam. The two walked around the plaza, and immediately drew the interest of nearby examinees. While many fawned over them, Julia pushed through the crowd, until she eventually ran into Mina, the vice president of the student council. Crouching to meet the little girl, she asks if she snuck in there to follow her big brother. She corrects her, saying she's there to take the exam with him. Hearing this, the vice realizes that she must be the one who received an offer from the elite class. Giving a smile, she confirms her identity, surprising the two who didn't expect her to know her name. Mina tries to lead Julia to the registration area, completely ignoring Luke. The girl stops, insisting that her brother needs to register as well. Flustered from forgetting, she turns and says he must be there for the martial arts exam. Several laugh upon hearing this, finding it ridiculous that anyone was still learning this path. Their looks of contempt make it clear that they all view mages as higher than martial artists. While Julia scowled at them, he remained silent. Like a garbage picker in the slums, it's always losers like Jeremy and the monster in the woods. They're insects to him, and he wouldn't even waste his time there if it wasn't for his family's good intentions. While he calms his sister down, Mina realizes her mistake and acknowledges that it was her fault for saying it out loud. Recomposing herself, she calls to him, inviting the young man over to join them once he's registered. Her goodwill works, as he deems her one of the few who looks at him without prejudice. The examinees all gathered as planned, told to check in with one of the council members. They're given their emblems. Their exam number is stored in it, so they have to make sure to wear it in the hall. The exam has 3 parts, with the first meant to measure their magic potential. Secondly, they're to test their element compatibility using spirits of different attributes. Lastly, they will measure their magic's destructive power on a dummy. To be fair for everyone, those in the martial arts department will undergo the same test. Luke sighs, thinking they were probably too lazy to make a different test. With that said, he hypes himself up and decides to shatter their prejudice by showing the strength of a martial artist. For the first stage, examinees are told to place their hand on the magic light one by one. The proctor gasps as he sees Luke take the stage. He's never encountered such a phenomenon his entire life. The boy's magic potential was 0, which should essentially be impossible. He sighs in resignation and leaves, but as soon as he does, Julia placed her hand on the light, which shocked people with its purple glow. This means she has a level 7 potential, and will likely be a top applicant this year. Everyone was getting worked up, and probably didn't know a thing. From deep in the crowd, Luke tells his sister that she doesn't need to hold back. With his approval, she poured her magic into the measuring device, which then engulfed the entire room with a bright golden light. They couldn't believe it, as her score was just a bit shy of the highest value. A student received the same score 2 years ago, but Julia is so much younger. Breathing out to end the test, she brightly hops off the stage and to her brother. Receiving her in his arms, he assures her that she's going to be an archmage someday. Some snicker at the pair, composed of one genius and one piece of trash. Luke listened as those who made such remarks are warned not to cross the girl's brother. It was all according to his plan of using Julia's talent to keep people's hands off him. For the last 3 years, he put in so much work to strengthen her talent, and now it was going to pay off. For the second test, the applicants are told to move to the spirit hut. That day, all of Luke's hard work was going to come to fruition. Examinees gathered at the compatibility test's second site. Also, there were the divine spirits from various elements. People started turning into one direction again, and watched as the spirits all gathered around Julia. In other words, Her compatibility with all elements were at the maximum level. Her talent and potential alone were astounding. Luke smiled from behind, knowing his custom skill was actually boosting her safely. The proctor announces that she received the highest score, and she receives a lot of praise as usual. However, she feels ominous energy from behind. Turning around, she sees the other examinees, maliciously aiming to befriend her. The little girl jumped into her brother's arms, afraid from their gazes and wondering why they were all looking at her like that. He says she'll be getting a lot of those stares, and it can't be helped since she's a genius. Instead of worrying about what others think, he reassuringly encourages her to get used to it. Julia is reinvigorated, remembering that she has to get stronger to protect him. Although smiling, he makes a note to train her mental toughness as well. Meanwhile, others continued to talk about her. Some expected her to be a first-class royalty, but it must not be with a brother like that. He probably scored 0 like before. As soon as he walked into the hall, Spirit scrambled to get away, immediately looking disgusted. Something weird happened after the second test ended. The second the boy left, one of the fire spirit's arms just tore off without explanation. They argue that they must have mistaken it, especially since they're so small. Watching them, Luke can't help but grin subtly, not expecting anyone to have witnessed that. During the second test, perhaps because he was forsaken by God, the spirits avoided him as mentioned. The fire attendant's attitude was particularly nasty, so when the test was over and he was about to leave, it spat fire right at him. It's been years since he was almost killed, but Vulcan still held a grudge. Unfortunately, he holds similar grudges and shoots a pebble to take the spirit's arm off. After all, a mere servant of the fire god has no right to act high and mighty. He takes Julia's hand and heads to the next test. Asked if she can take first place there too, she says she's confident, as long as he doesn't go all out. The older brother assures her that he'll stick to their plan. They soon reach the magic destruction test site, where several metal dummies stood across the field. People have already gathered, and some wondered how the year's genius was going to fare against the sturdy targets. Some are skeptical about her breaking it, as they're made with an empowered metal that can withstand any attack below the cursed rank. Looking from afar, even Luke acknowledges how strong it looks. With this, he should be able to test his level 6 skill without worries. In retrospect, attending a school with such high-grade equipment might not be so bad. Just then, a loud voice came from behind, angrily telling an examinee to line up properly. The rule there is that talentless people head to the back, so a girl tells another to move away. However, one glare is all it takes to strike fear into her heart. The noisy one froze in shock, while the other lady walked forward, annoyed by the nuisance blocking her way. Continuing forward, she reaches the siblings and called to Julia, confirming that she got the highest score on the compatibility test. The examinee's impossible glare is enough to scare the young girl, who hides behind her big brother. Acknowledging the threat, Luke steps between them and asks who she is. She introduces herself as Era, the granddaughter of Duke Miranda. The name itself was recognizable, as it belongs to one of the 3 great families in the kingdom, who once produced a legendary mage. His mother, Catherine, was from this family, meaning this girl is the daughter of his mother's younger sibling. Luke asks how old she is. She's annoyed by the question but answers nonetheless, so he tells her not to glare so much. After all, they are cousins. Insulted as she never heard about having a cousin, she decides to humiliate him in front of everyone. Era uses her power and glares right into the young man's eyes. Her aura engulfed the siblings, hitting them directly, and she ordered him to make a fool of himself. They don't even make an attempt to defend themselves, but to her confusion, nothing happened at all, and she just looked like a hissing cat. Luke criticizes the upbringing of someone who uses mental magic on a relative she just met. She's shocked, not understanding how her best magic failed to work, but such flimsy abilities won't work on a trained martial artist. Moving on, the proctor calls him over to take the test. With him gone, Era points to Julia and tells her not to get too arrogant, as she's going to place first in this test. Looking at the leaderboard, Luke confirms that she actually did come second to the girl in the previous stages. However, for the sake of his peaceful life, he can't allow her to take his sister's place. With an eerie treat in his hand, the young man offers Julia a piece of candy. She trusts him completely and pops it into her mouth, but she nearly dies and he even has to stop her soul from leaving. The girl cries from the near-death experience and complains about the bitter medicine. Apologizing, he explains that it's a potion that'll boost her performance. Called on, he runs off to the platform, promising to work on the taste later on. It was finally his turn to take the test. He's told to unleash all his magic power and hit the dummy, which they'll measure. Luke frankly admits that he can't use magic, confusing the examiner. Even more perplexing is how the examinee asks to just hit the dummy with brute force. Hearing Luke plan to just hit the dummy, the other examinees consider him another meathead. They immediately shut up, feeling the genius sister's angry side eye. If her brother hadn't told her to behave, she would have beaten them up long ago. Just then, Era scooted to Julia's side and asked if he really can't use magic as he said. The little girl confirms it, but reassures her that he's still an amazing person regardless. Despite hearing this, the noble was skeptical, knowing martial artists have their limits. Something explodes in the middle of the training field. They all turned in curiosity, wondering what just happened. 2 minutes ago, Luke asked the examiner if he can use a physical hit instead of a magical one. Since they don't care about the method of damaging, he goes ahead and gives it a try. Martial arts skills grow exponentially for every 3 levels, and his strongest skill, Flash, was level 6. With that said, it should be on an entirely different league. Moving far to get a decent run up, he used his ability as planned, and dashed toward the target with an empowered fist. Planting his foot into the ground, he pivots and drives his punch deep into the dummy's chest. It's sent crashing into the wall, unearthing the ground as it dragged back from the force. The indestructible dummy sparked and twitched with a huge dent on its chest. Eric couldn't believe it, as he moved as fast as high-level wind magic and dealt curse-grade damage. The others believe it's a fluke, and it seems she's the only one who noticed the truth. That said, his actions indicate that he wants to keep his true strength hidden. Even the proctor considers him lucky, but decides to grant him a perfect score nonetheless. With his ranking dragged up by the result, he flashes a pose for his sister, who delightfully returns his smile. He managed to avoid a 0 score, while still hiding his true strength. While people eventually forgot about his demonstration, everyone was captivated by Julia's rare talent. Even other examinees stopped to watch as he chanted electricity gathering around her body and staff. Finishing the incantation, a huge magic circle appeared before her, and she called for lightning to descend onto the earth. A huge scarlet bolt strikes the arena, precisely hitting the dummy with the red lightning, second only to golden lightning. This was a power the others could only hope to achieve, even after graduation. However, the caster was just on the ground, sitting after the spell. Even she was surprised. Despite this, she's granted 9.5 points for the exam. Later, reuniting with her brother, she admits being freaked out by the color of the bolt. Before, she could only conjure purple lightning, but now even the magic felt more active. Luke scratches his nose and looks away, deciding against telling her that the medicine she ate earlier actually boosted her magic power. In this world, mages and martial artists have their own potion-making techniques. One uses potion brewing, while the other wields elixir refining. While magic potions require a medium, elixirs made through refining can be absorbed directly by the body. Many elixirs were made in the past, but with martial arts declining, refining has become difficult. Very few of his kind can create the mage essence that just boosted Julia's power, mostly because it requires the elixir refining skill to be level 6. Besides him, there was only the level 9 martial artist, Recin, who's said to have the greatest mages begging him for the elixir. It'd be a pain if anyone found out that Luke has the power, so it'll be his secret. With the testing over, the siblings sit on a bench, waiting for the class assignments to be posted. Just then, someone called to them, and they saw Mina waving near a bulletin board. Asked why she's there, she shares the assignments, adding that they're both top students in their respective classes. Julia's eyes sparkled upon hearing that she got first place in the elite class. Luke praises her, and says he'll continue to count on her then. The vice president asks if there's a department she'd like to join next year, and explains the system of choosing from 5, after spending 1 year in the academy. The most natural would be the wind department, since she was blessed by the wind god. Seemingly in the same group, Mina excitedly shakes her hand and seals the deal. Luke chuckled at the girl, who was already scouting. With this, they separate for now to see the school dorms. Asking her to take care of his sister, the young man then heads to the martial arts department. He leaves the others, who look at the assignments and rankings. A lone girl watched from a distance, staring at Julia's name at the top of the leaderboard. Era admits her loss, but vows to take the first place from them one day. Luke knew that the martial arts department wasn't exactly the academy's top priority, but he didn't expect their dorm to be a building on the brink of collapse. He tries to stay positive, saying he'll at least live a peaceful life like he wanted. This didn't last long, as another student greeted him brightly, recognizing him as the top ranker. Extending his hand, he introduces himself as Kai, who's from the same department. Shaking his hand, Luke quickly moved past the loud boy to register himself. The classmate is persistent, and brings up how he sent the dummy flying. Ignoring him, the dorm keeper hands the young man his key to the room, which has a little tag that says 205. It's coincidentally the same as Kai's, making them roommates. They pass through the moldy walls and creaky corridors while looking for the unit, and finally stop upon reaching an open door with people already inside. Fortunately, there were a couple kind-looking people, who introduced themselves as Collins and Sharp. The rich noble was shocked upon seeing the broken bed frames and amount of dirt everywhere. It was disgusting and even comparable to an unmaintained pigsty. Seeing a spider, he asks Luke if he was actually going to stay in such a filthy room. The three silently judge the germaphobe rich boy, but some expressions change as that same boy takes a golden coin out from his pocket. It was worth more than a normal month's salary, but he's giving it to whoever cleans the room. The two immediately get to scrubbing, while Luke just surveyed the situation for now. He consoles the spoiled boy, who is trying to convince himself that their living conditions would improve, at least to a point that's better than a jail cell. Saying such things would have the student council haul him off. Eventually, they commend each other for a job well done, as their room turned into a sparkling clean space compared to the rest of the building. As promised, Kai hands them the coins and promises to protect them from now on. The two young men gasp in satisfaction, and while he's arrogant, his sense of camaraderie makes it hard for even Luke to hate him. Just then, the attendant came to deliver their academy uniforms. Since the ceremony was about to start, they're instructed to get changed and head to the hall. The uniforms were in tatters, and Kai abhorred them in fear of looking like a bum. To quell his mind, he's told that the ceremony will present a system that can improve their treatment. In fact, they might even accept requests to change the uniform. Luke was lying, but he thankfully gets through the gullible boy. After a while, the martial artists arrive at the hall as intended, but walk in wearing their shabby uniform. They did not exactly fit in, especially with the huge and extravagant room they found themselves in. While Kai insists that his own home was much better, his heart turns while looking for Julia, and is directed towards the front where the elite class was. Their uniforms were on a different level, white and as fancy as the hall. As their class is all the way at the back, it'd be for the best to say hello now. Surprisingly, the older brother passes and heads to their area in satisfaction. Even the far placements of the seats was discriminatory, as they can't even hear anything. Sitting down, Luke notices a girl who was still and incredibly attentive, unlike the rest. Just then, a huge but beautiful blaze in the form of a flower erupted in the room. Another was conjured on the palm of another student, who welcomed his fellow students with a rather flashy introduction. Introducing himself as the student council president and future great mage, Theo descended to explain the school's point system. Several people fawned, instantly turning into his fan. After all, becoming a level 6 mage before graduation was indeed incredible. Continuing, he says the point system is the basis for almost everything. Magic skills, rare books, tamed magic beasts, rare materials, and even guidance from masters. All learning resources can be obtained with points. There are many ways to earn them, but labor exchanges at an extremely low rate. It's much more efficient to get them by participating in department events, like guiding freshmen. Luke recalls Mina helping them out on the first day. Additionally, student council members are given a stable income of points monthly. Lastly, while it carries a risk, there is also monster hunting. Behind the school is a magic beast forest, where they can hunt beasts and turn in their materials for points. The mention of such a place inevitably makes Luke excited, as it's basically just a personal training ground he can use. A few hours into the night, the smoke of a stick of tranquility incense wafted throughout Luke's room. With the item keeping his roommates dead asleep, he's free to head to the mountain range, which was conveniently located near the martial arts dorm. The only thing standing between him and his training ground was a huge wall. Crouching down, he stretches his legs and leaps right over the towering border. With his power, it's as if he was flying high in the air. Moving deep into forest was an easy task for him as well, and he immediately started preying on nearby monsters. A purple toad-like creature is his first victim, and it's shocked to suddenly find a human grabbing onto the horn on its head. A quick stomp eliminates it immediately, allowing for the material to be ripped right off. A giant frog's black horn is poisonous and used for brewing potions, so it should be worth a lot of points. He set his eyes on the Academy's legendary martial arts books, which might grant rare skills. Not wanting to use too much time, he starts by pinpointing the monster's locations. An ability increases all of his senses, allowing him to see his targets like pins in a mental radar. The next target is a level 1 shellmoth, which was basically a rabid and oversized rat. He deals with this beast in an instant, telling it to go to sleep, and immediately moves on to a level 2 one-eyed bat. The levels of his targets increased, but the rate of eliminating them did not slow down at all. After a while, he collects a massive haul, which he intends to use for elixir refining among others. That said, it was still far too quiet for his liking. There are almost no traces of other magic beasts. Even if he checks himself, was there perhaps a powerful king dominating the nearby territory? Luke concentrates and uses his ability like before. His senses lead him to a cave not too far away. There, the aura of power was thick and dense, and a little deeper in, he finally found the king of the mountain range, which snarled right back at him. Despite this, the young man smiled in satisfaction and moved in. It was 1 kilometer out, and it's already noticed him. He arrives at the entrance of the cave, and he doesn't even have to enter. The level 6 Icefire Wolf was already there, standing tall and waiting to greet its prey. With the feral eyes of a predator, it growled at the student. Luke is completely unfazed, only understanding why it's so territorial. It hadn't even started yet, but the air was already thick in anticipation. He invites the beast to dance and moves first, closing the gap in the blink of an eye and preparing a punch. Surprisingly, the seasoned predator backed away in an instant and shot a blast of ice breath at him. His fist is hit with the ability and was encased in a block of ice. This would normally trouble other fighters, but Luke was not like anything else it's encountered. With his frozen hand, he punches the wolf's jaw strong enough to knock a tooth out. He smiled as the beast was sent back from the unexpected attack and crashed to the ground. If the boy trained harder, he could have blasted its leg clean off with one attack. Shattering the ice on his hand, he gestures the creature to get back up, certain it isn't giving up so soon. Although its knees buckled from the damage, the wolf stood up, ready to fight back. It gathers a concentrated ball of flames in its maw and shoots it at the boy like a deadly beam of heat. The powerful attack sends fire blasting out of the cave. Standing in the middle of it all, the beast proved just why it was the king of the forest. Believing that it has won, it howled triumphantly as a signal of victory, completely unaware of the human that was about to descend from above. It's shocked upon sensing the boy, who was pulling his Empower fist back to attack. Everything happens so fast, and he drives a heavy punch into his opponent's chest. This nearly breaks his insides apart, but it isn't over as the delayed impact sends it flying across the cave. It tumbles and crashes deeper inside like a rag doll. The ability to control the opposing elements of fire and ice freely was truly praiseworthy. Heaving and panting from the damage, the wolf looked in its enemy's eyes while its own trembled in fear. Luke was like a demon, filled with greed upon finding a rare magic beast on his first day. The enormous wolf shook in fear as its enemy approached, but prepared another blast of magic in its mouth. Luke walked forward, completely unbothered by its attempts, but the beast used a simultaneous mixture of ice and fire this time around. Because of the combination, a plume of steam filled the cave. This was no problem for him, and he simply waves it away to clear his vision, only to find the supposed predator by the entrance. Instead of continuing to fight, it runs as fast as it possibly could despite the wound in its chest. Unfortunately, there was no way the real hunter was going to let his terrified prey escape. Closing the gap right away, he grabs the end of the wolf's tail and pulls. It's never experienced this before, but it slammed into the cold, hard ground with immense force. Fighting such a huge beast was satisfying, and was sure to be worth a ton of points on its own. Luke was already tallying his earnings for the night, and failed to notice that his enemy had already gotten up. A quick swipe sends him crashing into a nearby wall, and while this would normally fatally injure others, the young man was unharmed as usual. To follow up, the beast shoots another raging blast of flames. This misses, as its target had already moved to circle around its body. It notices and turns its head to adjust the direction of the flame breath. However, Luke was already getting sick of it, and launched himself to keep the enemy down. With the power of martial arts, he unleashes an earth-shattering strike on his target. Since it's proved itself sturdier than others, the boy pulls his fist back, and lets loose a barrage of empowered punches that wreck the area. These all land squarely on the wolf's face, who wondered if it was going to meet its end there. Since things have reached this point, there was no other option but to use its last resort. To the human's surprise, the king of the forest raised its paws high, seemingly about to attack, but suddenly put them to the ground, along with its head. Bowing, the rare creature summoned a blue and red orb of fire and ice, which Luke identifies as the beast's cores. In this world, some creatures are born with cores, rare magic materials that hold all of their power. If a drop of human essence touches them, the beast becomes the human's tamed creature, meaning the wolf was offering itself up. Not putting too much thought into it, the martial artists accepted the deal. It was an unexpected haul, as even mages don't have access to a level 6 tamed creature. That said, he questions it, as truly strong magic beasts are too proud to submit to a human. He wounds himself and touches the cores to finalize the taming ritual, and feeds the ice and fire orbs back to his new pet. As soon as it swallows, the wolf calls to his master. Luke looked around for the source of the voice, confused. He's surprised as the creature called again, and that he can somehow understand. Satisfied with its obedience, he names it Uru. The wolf's territory was now basically his, so he wonders if there's any good loot from hunts. Seemingly understanding his thoughts, the canine perks up and nudges at its master. He proves to be smarter than expected, and jumps off to lead the way to his treasure. Together, the two calmly walked forward, traversing through the dangerous land like it was nothing. A stench hits Luke's nose. He finds the full pelt of a level 6 beast, preserved in ice, the bones of an iron monkey, and several gemstones. In other words, he was in a literal treasure trove of points. Uru was confused by his reaction, as they hadn't even reached his treasure yet. The wolf was ridiculously talking about a slab of meat, but the owner was staring at high-level beast cores. There were many more, but he consumed them all to level up. Based on the cores there, he's killed at least 2 opponents as strong as him. Greatly pleased by his strength, Luke tosses a couple of balls into his pet's mouth. To its surprise, the injuries from their earlier battle instantly faded away. It's one of the boy's high-grade potions, given to help Uru protect the treasure from others. Since it's his first mission, the wolf was more than glad to obey. With all that settled, there was only one thing left in his agenda. In the classroom building the next day, Luke entered as usual. He ended up pulling an all-nighter, but thanks to the incense, he isn't tired at all. Unfortunately, he couldn't calculate the total worth of his treasure, as Uru kept bothering him. The clock struck and signaled the start of their day. Soon enough, students started questioning the absence of their teacher for the first class. Kai suggests that the academy might have forgotten to assign a professor, but that's unlikely. Just then, someone walked into the room with an empty bottle, cursing and saying he drank too much beforehand. The entire class is surprised by his loud entrance. Sig, who was still drunk, introduced himself as their homeroom teacher for the martial arts class. Luke watched him closely. The homeroom teacher writes his name on the board, and yawns uncaringly as he reads through his little notebook. Leaning over to his friend, Kai complains that the man doesn't even look like a teacher. He's quickly punished by a piece of chalk that's launched at his head. Other students didn't see it and wondered why he yelled all of a sudden. Luke smiled on his own, being the only one who saw clearly. Based on the movement, the man must probably be a level 5 or 6 martial artist. Attendance taking starts, and the class names are called on by one. Tish is called first, and the young man remembers seeing her during the opening ceremony. While everyone was fooling around, she left an impression on him by sitting quietly. Sig confirms that all the students are present for the first day. Forgetting the textbooks, he abruptly appoints Tish as the representative and asks her to get them. The young woman was stunned and asked if he was talking to her. Hearing his confirmation, Kai stood up in protest, insisting that representatives should be chosen fairly. With his background and abilities, he was prepared to show them that he was more worthy. Another piece of chalk hit his head, and now it was clear who shot the small projectile at him. Sig glares at the student, reminding him that they aren't allowed to talk without his permission. The professor leaves, instructing everyone to study on their own once they receive the books. Not expecting to be given such a position, Tish considered it her chance to change her destiny. While Kai winced in pain, Luke acknowledged that there's something odd about their teacher. Based on the way he shifts his weight, he obviously suffered a serious injury some time before. With that said, the young man can only wonder how strong he used to be. He considers the possibility of class being fun, with such a strong guy around. A few hours later, it was time for the students to have lunch. Kai continues complaining about Sig, saying he didn't teach them anything at all. While he whined about having the worst professor, Julia happily waved to her brother, who patted her head and asked how her first class went. Fortunately, her homeroom teacher, Lina, was nice and encouraged her to run for class rep next week. Hearing that they already chose theirs, she asks Luke if he was appointed. Smiling and saying it isn't him, he invites them both to have lunch, as the academy cafeteria is famous for its food. Meals are also paid for by points, and while using cash is allowed for first-timers, the exchange rate differs per department. The table was full of scrumptious and delicious food. Julia scarfed it down and encouraged her brother to do the same, while Kai watched silently in front of them. They both paid one count, but the exchange rate gap between their classes were 10 times apart. There was no getting around, as even the staff openly discriminated against the martial artists. Nobility and lineage didn't matter. Talentless students just have to work hard to earn points. Just by enrolling there, it's as if they surrendered their human rights on the spot. Like an angel on earth, Julia offers Kai a hot plate of her A-grade meal. He tears up and accepts the offer, moved by how kind the little girl is. Just then, someone walked to their table. Luke notices first and turns to see Maya, happily greeting them with a bright smile on her face. She's already eaten, but baked some cookies to thank them for saving her last time. Paired with some tea, the dessert was a perfect end to their first meal on the campus. Even the young man was delighted, and they called her an amazing cook. The girl blushes from the compliments, and Kai just butts in to take a piece for himself. Praising the extraordinary treats, he belatedly introduces himself to the young lady. They exchange pleasantries, and Luke decides against telling him about their old engagement. With this, Maya leaves them and heads off on her own. As expected, the cafeteria is a place where people will inevitably run into each other. Just earlier, he saw Mina getting close to Julia with casual conversation. She backed away a bit after seeing him there. Additionally, Theo flew over the room with his fire magic, earning amazed gasps from the students. To use magic so flashily, he really is a show-off in its most basic definition. That said, he was secretly panting after the display, and quietly admitted that he took a potion to look cool. Luke was honestly amazed at first, but the scene proved that he's just slightly better than others. Just then, a loud thud caught his ears, and he sees Sig heading out with another bottle of alcohol in his hands. Chugging it down in the middle of the day, he stumbles over himself while heading to his destination. Upon entering the room, he's immediately met with scowls for being the last one there. His peers mutter insults and degrading comments about him, even mentioning the incident. Not caring about it, he casually takes his seat and yawns. Linda can only stare and sigh at the display. With a couple taps on the table, an old man takes everyone's attention and starts the meeting to discuss the Magic Beast Taming Tournament. Carmina Empire is often attacked by monsters because of its location, and to address this issue, they train their people to tame multiple monsters at once. Because of this, it became an annual tradition for all the freshmen at the Allen Magic Academy to participate in the Magic Beast Taming Tournament. On this note, they have prepared over 2,000 level 1 magic beasts for the event. One of the teachers, Linda, suggests that they hold the tournament in 6 days, just like what they do annually. Another one agrees but votes against letting the martial arts students join the tournament, since it would just be a waste of their resources since they don't stand a chance against magic beasts. Since it's his students that they are talking about, Sig immediately objects since it's unfair. The teacher, Greg, reiterates that he is just thinking about the students. Linda states that as long as they are freshmen in their school, the martial arts students should be required to participate. The others agree, saying that the students should be treated equally. Greg secretly disagrees since he doesn't want the idea of teachers siding with Sig. He thinks that Linda is on Sig's side because she still thinks that he is a level 8 powerhouse. He then relents since everyone insisted, but adds that if the students end up crying in terror, it will not be his fault. After establishing that the martial arts department will participate, the meeting ended. 2 teachers approach Linda and ask her if she is sure about the participation of the martial arts students, since taming beasts for them is just too harsh since they are more used to combat. She smiles at them and tells them that a long time ago, someone told her that a coward who lacks the guts to overcome hardship has no right to call himself a martial artist. Any student who refuses to join the tournament will just have to quit the martial arts department. Later, Sig is informing his class that the magic beast taming tournament will be held in 6 days, and that after their class, they will do practical combat training outside. The teacher is determined to train them so that they can adapt and beat a magic beast. Kai seems unhappy about it, saying that the tournament's purpose is just to pick their class representative, and since they already have a class representative, it will be useless for them to participate. Taking offense at what he said, Sig taught him a lesson and started the class. Luke, on the other hand, is deep in thought about the upcoming practical combat training and tells himself that he should be careful not to send his sparring partner flying to avoid attention. The next day, the sparring practice starts. Luke quietly observes them, especially Tish, who seems the strongest among his classmates. Since he is preoccupied, he doesn't seem to realize that he just sent his sparring partner flying. Sig then appears holding a bottle of wine and announces that the sparring match is over. Kai immediately slumps on the ground, thankful that the practice is over. Collins mentions that they are heading to the cafeteria and tells Kai that they will bring him some food as promised. Sharp questions this, and Kai admits that he gave them a gold coin, and in exchange, they will bring him food worth the points. He points out that Collins could make a profit, and in return, he can save his points, so it is a win-win situation. Sharp almost cries as he also wants the same deal with Collins. Kai then promises to let him in next time. Meanwhile, Luke observes Collins, noting that the boy is a clever one since he makes his own allowance and keeps his connections and relationships smooth. Kai then approaches him, commenting that he is smart and that he should learn some tricks from him. Luke gives him a friendly smile, but declines his offer. Kai realizes that his roommate has a sister in the elite class, so he doesn't worry about gathering points that much. That night, Luke slips into the forest to beat a massive beast as part of his training. Even without Julia, he is not worried about food because he can hunt on his own. He wipes the blood off his face and starts a fire to cook his food. If he hadn't walked Julia home, he could have used dinner time for training. He remembers that the vice president, Mina, was trying to get close to his sister again, and he should be careful around the vice president and keep his eyes on her. He swears that if he senses any bad intention from Mina, he will make her pay for using his precious sister. His companion, Yuru, appears, and he offers the meat to him. Looking at the wolf, it is quite cute, and he is happy that he was able to tame the beast. He then tells the wolf that he should help him train and promises that he won't hurt the animal while wearing a scary face. Moments later, Uru learns that being Luke's assistant and training partner isn't easy. Meanwhile, in the Ryan estate, Kath is alone and sitting in their pavilion when Holt arrives and asks if she is still thinking about their children. She slightly smiles at him and replies that he can really read her mind and so she can't hide anything from him. Holt tells her that she should visit her children if she is really worried about them. Since he is going to pass through Daku Town for work, he offers to drop her off at their academy. Because of this, her mood lightens up, and she can't wait to meet her children again. Meanwhile, in the house of Count Grando, people are dressed in cloaks, and it is as if they are in a cult. Just then, a woman appears, also dressed in black. She welcomes their new member, Jessica, and tells her to sit down. She then tells her about her new creation, Jade Dream. The drink is so potent that the moment you drink it, your body begins to glow. She gives them glasses and puts some of herself in the drink. The members drink, gulping every last drop of the red liquid in their glasses. With this, the mysterious woman declares that the exciting game is about to start. Meanwhile, Jessica is observing the woman, not drinking anymore from her cup. Later, the two women are in bed and talk about how Julia managed to destroy the Black Wind group despite being so young. Jessica laments the fact that Julia received a level 7 blessing and that she inherited the talent of both the Kath and Miranda families. The woman points out that Julia won't be able to defeat them and that Jeremy's efforts in being strong aren't fulfilled yet. Jessica bites her lip out of frustration until it starts to bleed. Seeing right through her, she reckons that Jessica wants to assassinate Kath and Julia and become the Baroness. She wipes the lips of the woman in her arms as Jessica admits that she wants to be the lady of the house. The woman lets out a poisonous smile, touches a symbol, and comments that the moment a young bud withers is really something beautiful to watch. In the training ground, Tish is ready for another round of practical training, while the rest of the martial arts department are exhausted from the practical combat training yesterday, lamenting that they were in so much pain that they couldn't sleep at all, and that their homeroom teacher is so strict about it. Tish sighs and makes them realize that the pain is part of the process of getting stronger, so they should do their best. Meanwhile, Kai and his other roommates claim that they don't feel pain at all and think that they are stronger than the rest of their classmates. Observing them, Luke debunks their theory and quietly thinks to himself that it is just the effect of the sleeping incense that he put a lot of in their room so they wouldn't wake up while he was training. Tish thinks that the 4 roommates have a lot of stamina, and with that power, they will likely be able to take on tougher training in the future. With the right amount of training and dedication, they will definitely become strong martial artists in the future. Fired up, Kai starts the combat training session with Luke. He gets pretty aggressive at first, but is immediately neutralized by his opponent. The two continue to exchange quick and successive attacks with each other. Kai is impressed with his sparring partner, and Luke seems to feel the same. Just then, he feels a presence behind him and someone just staring. He stops for a moment and looks behind, surprised to see an old man looking directly at him while sitting under a tree. Since he is no longer focused on the combat, Kai tries to take advantage but ultimately fails as Luke manages to dodge the attack, making the boy drop to the ground with a thud. Kai takes insult that he is looking away while they are sparring, stating that he should focus until they have a winner. Meanwhile, Mina sees Director Otani, who is about to go. The girl offers to assist him in returning to the library, but the old man declines, saying that he will enjoy a leisurely stroll back to his hotel. While walking back, he quietly thinks that Luke is such a fascinating young man, and that he is hiding his true strength. Even he can't fully gauge his real abilities and tells himself that he will remember the student's name. After the class is finally over, Luke recalls the lesson they had about massages that Sig insisted they learn. The teacher tried the special massage on Collins, who seemed healed from his muscle sores from their intensive training. At the end of the class, everyone's muscle fatigue vanished. The lesson is an advantage for him since they will quickly forget how they were the only ones feeling fine that morning. After solving his problem, he then starts to plan about building his new training ground. To start off, he proceeds to buy the materials he needs for it. He goes straight to the magic material shop at the Allen Academy. It carries a large selection of rare goods not available to the general public. Upon entering the shop, he gets amazed by how huge it is, like a shopping mall, and just like everywhere else in the academy, one should pay with the points they have. He checks different equipment that he will need for his training ground, but everything is so expensive, and he figures that he will be spending around 1,000 more points in a month. His sister gets a ton of points, but he tells himself that he can't rely on her anymore since she might lose her snack money, so he just settles on buying the magic potion to mix into his medicinal bath. He reminds himself that he should exchange the materials that he stored in the Yule Cave for points. He gets to the counter and finds the shopkeeper sleeping. After she wakes up because of his presence, he asks to buy the potion. The woman tells him that it costs 5 points. She studies him and figures that he is a martial arts student. Knowing how incompetent the martial arts students are, she knows that they only get 10 points at most from the start, and the student in front of her is really blowing half of it off by spending this much on a potion. Feeling pity for him, she asks if that amount of potion will be useful for him, trying to make him realize that he is making a mistake by wasting his points on one purchase. Instead, he turns around and smiles at her, saying that the potion he bought will not be enough, so he will be back for more. The woman finds this unreasonable since martial arts students don't have potion classes. The only thing that would make this make sense is if the young man were a noble. Later, Luke is submerged in his medicinal bath, relaxing after a long day. He looks at some plants mixed in his bath and thinks that it is kind of a waste since they are meant to be mixed in drinks. But of course, no one would be willing to drink his bath water. Just then, he feels a presence behind him, which turns out to be a beast with terrifying sharp fangs. A few moments later, Luke felt satisfied after his medicinal bath. After feeling a boost, he decided to go get some materials from the cave for some point exchange, but reminded himself that he shouldn't stand out too much, so he needed to hold back and just stick to common level 2 materials. Just then, he saw Yuru and was surprised to realize that it was drinking the medicinal bath he soaked in. He looks begrudgingly at the wolf, but says anyway that it will be beneficial for him since it will enhance the condition of his body. The wolf cheers and communicates that he wants beef. Luke sighs and calls his aide a glutton. Thankfully, the problem of wasting the bathwater is solved. After getting the materials he needs for the points, he plans to divide them and convert them into points during the less crowded hours. He also plans on temporarily hiding the tools he bought at the material shop near the dormitory and secretly transporting them to the cave at night. Later, he bought another piece of equipment from the magic shop. The shopkeeper offers to help him carry it with magic, but the boy politely declines. He is just grateful that the woman thinks he received the materials from his family, and this conveniently helped him create a reason why he has resources to buy things from the shop. He then remembers the magic beast taming tournament that is coming soon. Later, in the classroom, Sig is reprimanding his class for having no care for the incoming beast taming tournament tomorrow. He pushes them to practice diligently, and if they don't want to give their best effort, they better drop out and go home. Angered by the lack of work, he criticizes their forms, especially mentioning Sharp and Kai, who are doing weird movements, pointing out that they won't win if they keep that up. The boy objects, saying that he actually won against Luke, Sharp, and Collins using his technique. The teacher sighs, looking at the 3 boys who actually lost to Kai. He can't stand noble young masters since they are actually weak and incompetent. He then tells Tish to spar with Kai. After everyone gathers in one area to watch their duel, Kai immediately shows his sass, telling the girl that he won't go easy on her. He will prove to her that he is more suitable for the class representative. She braces for his attack, and he quickly charges in her direction, giving her a powerful punch. However, she dodges it in the blink of an eye and gives him a jab in his stomach. The impact affects Kai, and he acknowledges that she is fast. He then tries to retaliate by giving her a kick, but it gives an opening just like what Sig said. Because of this, Tish manages to give him a kick as well. It connects and almost knocks him out, but he is able to recover and attempts to attack again. However, she doesn't give him any chance and shows her prowess again by sending him across the training ground with a powerful punch. The blow finally knocks him out cold. Meanwhile, Luke, who is just watching, feels impressed at how Tish fights, understanding why she was appointed as the class representative by Sig. The teacher reiterates that the magic beasts won't go easy on them, and that everyone must put out their full effort. Luke notes that Kai went all out immediately, and that was why Tish saw his weakness at the start of their fight. She helps him stand after their match, but the boy looks dissatisfied. Sig announces that tomorrow, everyone must tame at least one magic beast, and if they can't do that, they will be kicked out of the martial arts department. Because of this, he pushes the students to practice until the end and fight with all their might until tonight. Luke then approaches his friend and tells him that his defense is completely lacking, and if he wants to fix that bad habit and attack the enemy's weak points, he will be fine. However, that is not the thing that is bothering the boy. His mind is not even on the tournament anymore. He fell in love with Tish after he got beaten up and defeated, and this is the first time a girl has kicked him, and she is so cool. He has already thought of the names of their children and a whole future with their class representative. The next day, the students enter the arena, where the magic beasts will be tamed. The students whisper about how terrifying it must be that the magic beasts are crawling around down there, and it makes them so afraid to even think of fighting. Meanwhile, the other departments start to belittle them, talking about how they will get beaten up immediately and don't see the point in making them join the tournament. Sig hears this and reprimands the students gossiping with his most intimidating face. The students get so terrified that they run away immediately. Luke is impressed with the teacher, never knowing that he is that passionate about protecting his students, since he always looks so nonchalant and indifferent. He looks over his side and finds Kai uneasy because of nervousness. He tells the boy to just pretend that the magic beasts are their teacher to lessen his worries. He pushes his friend to imagine beating their teacher to give him motivation. Inspired, Kai admits that he fantasizes about punching their teacher's face. Sig hears their conversation nearby, and although pissed, he chooses to ignore them. Luke reiterates that Kai should focus on his defense. In this way, a low-level beast cannot break his barrier and he will definitely win. He is thankful that his friend is good at giving sound advice. Later, a teacher is discussing the rules of the tournament for all the students. He states that those who tame 10 magical beasts will receive a perfect score, while those who cause a beast's death will have their points deducted accordingly. The time limit is 10 minutes, and if they are injured, they should report to the teachers who will stand by outside the arena. The teacher then signals that the tournament now begins. With this, Julia enters the barrier space as a member of the first group. She wonders how 50 beasts could enter the whole arena, and now it all makes sense seeing the space barrier. She looks around and no other students are there and wonders if they are all farther in. Thrilled about taming beasts, she attacks them, determined to finish the tournament with flying colors. The teacher adds from the monitor that when a beast submits, a vibrant smoke rises from its body. Furthermore, the teachers get an idea and sense the situation by imbuing the wall with their magic circle and get the intel from there by placing their hand. This is also the system used for counting their points and penalties. After a while, the system announces that the Arena 5 mission is complete and the results are out. The teacher checks it using his hand. He is quite shocked with the result and even thinks he is sleepy. Moments later, Julia exits the arena satisfied and happy with herself. She is greeted by Linda, who praises her for a job well done. She then requests to see her brother now that she is done and asks where the martial arts arena is. Linda informs her that it is Area 10 and most likely they are entering last, so it will be late once it's Luke's turn. Meanwhile, Era observes in the shadows, taking interest in Luke's ability, waiting to see if he can pull off the same phenomenal results as he did in the entrance ceremony. 2 hours later, the other students from other departments get underwhelming scores after their taming test. Seeing other students flunk, Kai is starting to get jitters about whether they can stay in the martial arts department. Luke assures him that they have a chance since they are not really inferior to the magic classes. Sig chimes in, trying to encourage his class not to get worried since level 1 beasts cannot hurt humans, thus there are no injured students yet. As martial artists, their physical strength and close combat skills are greater than those of low-level mages, and he tells them to have more confidence in themselves. To his annoyance, his students are surprised by his kind words. Tish arrives and confirms that not a single person has been injured and most people are just exhausted from using up all their mana. She has also gathered important information that the magical beast's movement range is restricted by a barrier, so students can't get surrounded and to ensure everyone's safety. So, if ever they think they can't win, they just have to run away and find a weaker beast to defeat. If they learn to pace their stamina, they should be able to score points. Her classmates express their gratitude to her for giving them pointers on how to survive the tournament, appreciating her efforts as their class representative. Just then, Greg chimes in, accusing them of eavesdropping on their class and stealing the information. No wonder they resort to that kind of cheating because everyone knows that they are lowly creatures. Taking offense, Sig asks what the teacher is doing there. Greg smirks and tells him that the martial arts department is about to enter the arena soon. He tells him that he should make his students try their hardest if he doesn't want the martial arts department to be shut down. But if ever this happens, he would be happy because their department is a waste of resources anyway and should have never been established in the first place. The teacher walks away after insulting the class. Luke gives him a look as he walks away, remembering the people who used to bully him before. Since he was the top-ranked student during the entrance ceremony, he is the first one who should enter the arena. Sig sighs, stating that if he is nervous, he can have another student enter first. However, with determined eyes, he declares that he will go first as planned. He vows to get a good score, so those who look down on their department will die of humiliation. He will show them what they are truly capable of. Hearing this, his classmates gain a boost of morale and cheer for him. Sid quietly observes them, thinking about how Luke easily and positively influences his classmates, who were just shaking from fear and self-doubt earlier. Before he enters the arena, Kai reminds Luke of the important information she got while snooping, which can help him win. 10 minutes later, in Venue 10, Luke enters the space barrier. He observes that there are perception circles everywhere, and if he can avoid these, then no one will know what really happened inside the barriers. When a magical beast acknowledges its master, their souls become connected, allowing them to communicate telepathically and enabling the master to temporarily wield the beast's powers and abilities. With this bond, Luke channels Yuru's power to defeat low-level beasts while keeping a low profile to avoid drawing unnecessary attention. Just then, a high-level beast, an enormous owl, flies overhead. Luke seizes the opportunity and uses Yuru's strength to corner it. Thinking strategically, he decides to wear down the owl's stamina and will to fight, hoping this will help his department secure a higher success rate in taming beasts. He injures the owl slightly and plans to use it to intimidate the remaining low-level beasts. He's grateful that Yuru's abilities are proving useful and that the creature submitted so easily. However, until he tames every beast inside the barrier, he must make sure the potion's effects don't leak outside. He then sets off again, searching for more beasts and aiding his classmates by lending them the advantage of Yuru's power. Meanwhile, outside the arena, Julia patiently waits for her brother, confident he'll score high even though half the time has already passed and his scoreboard still shows 0. Greg, on the other hand, is smug, convinced that his doubts about the martial arts department were correct. Seeing Luke's score, he declares that their department's loss is inevitable. Hearing the snide remarks from other students, Julia stands up for her brother, asserting that he's remarkable regardless of whether he can use magic or not. Filled with contempt, Greg scoffs at the idea that a student from the elite class would defend the martial arts department, just like Linda did. He sneers, saying that the results will speak for themselves. Just then, the system announces that Luke has earned his first point, surprising the teachers. Kai and Tish cheer, relieved that their classmate finally scored. At least now, he won't be at risk of being kicked out of the department. Greg laughs mockingly, pointing out how low their standards must be to celebrate a single point when the highest score in his class is 5. Moments later, the teacher tracking the scores announces that Luke's points suddenly jump to 5, matching Greg's top student. The revelation humiliates Greg, who finds it impossible to believe. Inside the barrier, Luke has finished intimidating the beasts, ensuring that his classmates will have an easier time earning points later. The only thing left for him is to secure a perfect score and exit the arena. With calm precision, he proceeds to tame each of the weakened beasts one by one, rapidly accumulating points. To everyone's astonishment, Luke reaches 10 points, which is the maximum score, making Julia beam with pride and excitement. The whole school is stunned that the martial arts department got a perfect score at the tournament. Julia happily greets her brother, who just got back from the space barrier. Humiliated, Greg refuses to believe that a freshman could tame 10 magic beasts, especially someone from the martial arts department. He then confronts Sig and asks if he hired an imposter to act like his student. Sig denies using such a low and dirty strategy. Witnessing this, the proctor takes offense at what he said and refutes being a corrupt overseer who would accept bribes and tolerate cheating. Greg clenches his mouth in anger. He thinks carefully before creating another scene, since making enemies out of high-level proctors would be bad. He backs down and explains that he finds what happened suspicious, especially after Luke also got a perfect score on the entrance exam when the dummy suddenly broke. To clear his suspicions, the proctor suggests that they investigate the barrier space. Kai chimes in that the teacher just can't accept that they were defeated by the martial arts department and that they even got a perfect score. Luke assures his friend and tells him to let them investigate because he's got nothing to hide anyway. 10 minutes later, the proctors open the space barrier, and the beasts try to escape by forcing their way out. They check on the beasts and figure that they aren't weakened to the point where they need to change venues. The two proctors discuss the outcome and carefully weigh if Luke really did cheat to get a perfect score. The first proctor admits that he couldn't find anything suspicious but is sure that something must have shaken up the magic beasts. The second proctor agrees with his initial findings and suggests that they send the 10 magical beasts for a detailed inspection and continue the tournament. After the two agree on how they will handle the investigation, they announce that there were no problems found in the inspection results and resume the tournament for the next students. Meanwhile, Luke finds it interesting that they admit that no cheating happened but still doubt his skills, so they are still investigating the result further. His eyes then linger on Tish, and he thinks that the tournament is about to get more interesting because of her. Tish charges toward the arena, determined to get a perfect score as well, refusing to lose to Luke. Inside the barrier, she immediately faces a high-level white wolf beast. She tries to strategize and plans to make it submit in 30 seconds, and if she isn't able to, she'll just head for the gate. She charges toward the mighty beast with all her might. On the other hand, the magical beast recognizes that the girl is of the same species as the boy earlier who roughed them up. It then cowers in fear as her fist nears its face, afraid to get hurt again. It immediately submits, much to Tish's confusion. Finding it odd, she ponders if it is just a coincidence or if it means that the martial arts department isn't that weak after all. She continues to attack more magical beasts, making them submit right away with her prowess and racking up points continuously. Meanwhile, her classmates in the arena are cheering for her. She successively defeats different kinds of magical beasts, making them surrender regardless of how high level they are. Ultimately, she also achieves 10 points just like Luke but faster than him. Unable to believe the result, the proctor orders his subordinate to send the beasts defeated by Tish for inspection too. Tish isn't really bothered by their judgment. She is just happy to receive a perfect score as well, realizing that Luke was right about the beasts in the tournament not being as scary as they thought, and that just because they are martial artists used to combat doesn't mean that they are weaker than those mages who can use magic. On match 3, Sharp has also surprisingly achieved a perfect score and easily defeated the beasts. Next, Collins also showed his prowess, also achieving a perfect score. Meanwhile, Kai didn't let them steal his thunder and also showed off by achieving a perfect score as well. As the tournament progressed, the martial arts students continued to dominate, earning perfect scores one after another and quickly rising to the top of every event. Sig smiles as his students shine at the tournament. After making sure that they are alright on their own and have achieved victory, he leaves the arena and takes a gulp of his drink. Meanwhile, the detailed inspection shows no issues with the magical beasts of the barrier space. Director Otani seems confused by the conclusion since the department's scores are exceptionally high. He acknowledges that their martial arts skills are impressive, but this is unusual and surprising. The proctor explains that maybe it is because the magical beasts were already roughed up by the attacks from the mage class, so when it was the martial arts class's turn, the beasts were already tired. This is the first tournament since the martial arts division was established. The martial arts students fighting the beasts up close must have scared them even more. With this, Otani decides that starting next year, they will have the martial arts division go first, and he agrees that the current scores will stand as is. Greg intervenes and expresses his disappointment with the decision. However, since he can't go against the director, he tries to calm down and just questions how the martial arts department won through sheer luck. The old man answers him that luck is part of their abilities. He reiterates that it isn't the students' fault, and they can't just throw out their scores. They heed the director's final decision and go to announce the results while Greg silently fumes with anger. He looks at Sig with contempt and vows to make the man pay for causing him humiliation. Meanwhile, Otani assures them that the issue with the tournament will not get out of hand. It's just that he can't share the details yet, but it is not something that can put their school in a bad light. He then quietly contemplates that he will continue to observe Luke and will pretend not to know his abilities if that is what the boy wants. After the tournament, the boys are back at their dorm. Kai is elated that he got a perfect score and is so excited to tell his father about his victory. He then points out that taming magical beasts isn't as tough as everyone made it sound. Collins points out that maybe they have just gotten stronger after all that training. Luke agrees with this and is secretly glad that no one noticed that he was the reason why their class got perfect scores. Kai then asks where they are going to spend the bonus 20 points they got for placing first in the tournament. Sharp answers that he is going to save it. After all, he still owes his friend a meal. Collins tells him to use his points during emergencies instead, but Kai chimes in that buying high-grade materials for next month's combat training is the best choice. Luke is surprised to hear this, having no idea that there is an upcoming combat training. Kai explains that they will fight illusions of the beasts living inside Allen Academy. While there is no real danger, they will get intense real-world combat experience on how to fight different beasts. However, only the best 100 students can join the combat training. Sharp points out that all 12 students from the elite division are getting in, so that will only leave them 88 remaining slots. Kai explains that they still have a big chance since he heard that the participants are usually picked based on the taming tournament rankings. Since they got all perfect scores, they will definitely have a chance to get in. Sharp and Collins then decide to make their way to the materials shop to grab some training gear. Seeing them pumped up, Luke thinks that they made the right call in helping everyone get a perfect score. Kai asks him to go to the materials store together, but he declines and shows him a charm, saying that he wants to take a better look at the pendant Sig gave him earlier. The pendant gleams under Luke's touch. It is a reward given only to the first 3 students who score a perfect mark in the tournament. Kai seems unhappy that it went to his friend's possession since it should have been Tish's, who is just one spot away. Luke points out that he just got lucky. Kai sighs and decides to go alone to the materials shop to catch up with Sharp and the others. Later, the scores are finally announced, leaving all the students stunned that the martial arts department team came first in the tournament. Greg's student, Ryla, is fuming with anger at the results. They have always come first and achieved good results for 3 consecutive years and should have had the chance to join the elite department. She can't accept the fact that all her father's efforts are now down the drain, and it was all because of the loser martial arts department. A student who just arrived also can't accept the results and throws a magical knife at the monitor. He states with disgust on his face that the same department has now stolen 20 slots from them for the next combat training. Another mage student, Blake, points out that the slots should have belonged to the magicians. Another student chimes in that it hasn't been proved that the martial arts department students cheated. As he retrieves his knife, he shares that he heard their rival department bribe the teachers at the Magic Beast base. The other students begin to gossip about this and bring up Kai's family background as one of the rich nobles who could bribe the proctors if they wanted to. Just then, Andre, one of Greg's students, arrives, saying that he saw Kai at the material shop earlier and that he bought the last training equipment there. If the martial arts department receives their bonus 20 points tomorrow, they will surely buy the valuable materials they can use for their training, leaving nothing for the magic department. Full of disdain, Ryla suggests that they break the martial artists' meridians and teach them a lesson themselves. Later, they corner Sharp and Collins, who are both poisoned. Realizing that they are in a dire situation, Collins offers his extra points to the mages, but Ryla attacks them instead with her magic, injuring them further. She tells them that they don't need points, especially from losers like them. Although weakening from the poison, Sharp asks why they are being unreasonably attacked. The girl mercilessly steps on his hand and demands that they crawl back to their department in that pitiful state and tell everyone in their class that their lives are less than those of insects. Several hours later, Luke and Kai are looking for their missing roommates. The two are often late because of their part-time jobs, but not to this extent. In addition, Luke feels uneasy about the situation. Aside from that, this is the first time he smells such a strong scent of blood on that same path. He then sees the trail ahead of them and follows it frantically. Kai runs behind him, confused as to why he is suddenly agitated. They stop in their tracks upon seeing their two friends, Sharp and Collins, unconscious from serious injuries. Luke comes to their side and suspects that it was Greg's students who hurt his classmates. In his weakened state, Collins tells him that it was Ryla who severed his meridians, making Luke tremble in anger. He tries to calm Kai down, assuring him that their friends are still alive and just lost consciousness due to their injuries. He tells him to look for the medicine while he stops the bleeding. Kai runs in panic to get the medicine while Luke stays and assesses his two friends. He discovers that the two are under a curse and all the bones in their bodies are shattered by a bone-crushing art wielded by assassins from the black market. Seeing the two in so much pain, he can't help but feel an inexplicable anger inside him. Clearly, the people who did this to them were not just giving a warning but intended to murder them by inflicting such cruel spells. As he sees them writhing in pain, Luke vows to avenge them. Kai arrives with Tish, who is shocked that Sharp and Collins were attacked. Luke tells her that the students' lives are no longer in danger, but they will need several days of rest to recover. Kai thanks him for his quick and effective first aid while expressing his anger toward the students who hurt his friends. Antagonized, Tish vows to report the incident to the student council. However, Kai points out that the council is not on their side because the teachers are pretending not to notice as well. Completely enraged, Luke is determined to make them pay. Even Tish is shocked by his reaction, as his usual gentle demeanor is now gone. The next day, they report the incident to the student council, and Luke asks for a duel with the students from Greg's class. The condition is that if they win, the involved students in the assault incident should offer an apology, and if they lose, they must offer an S-rank bonus to Mr. Greg's class. However, the student council president points out that they do not have evidence that students from Greg's class are the culprits and tells them that the S-rank bonus they got from the tournament is nothing, letting the pendant slip from his hand and drop on the floor. Since a duel is such an important event, they should wager a more valuable item. Insulted, Kai is ready to give him a piece of his mind, but Luke stops him and asks the president what would be an appropriate thing to wager. The president thinks for a while and carefully considers what they should put at stake. He then looks at them with manipulative eyes and states that the best wager would be the qualification for entry to the incoming Allen Tower combat training. The losing side should permanently forfeit the qualification for entry into the Allen Tower. Confident that he will win, Luke agrees to the condition. After the wagering, it was decided that the duel would take place 2 days later, drawing the attention of the entire student body. The new students, displeased that the martial arts department had secured entry slots to the Allen Tower, threw their support behind Greg's class. Meanwhile, Greg went so far as to acknowledge the 3 students who had attacked Sharp and Collins. Sig, on the other hand, remained silent and simply intensified the practical combat training. The day of the duel arrives, and the whole battle arena cheers, thrilled about the fight that will unfold before them. Proud as ever, Ryla gives them the chance to apologize for causing the ruckus, promising they will be forgiven before they get hurt. Luke points out that she doesn't know how the fight will turn out yet, confident that he will defeat them. The students prepare to face each other, and finally, they are given the signal to begin the duel. Kai immediately charges toward Andre, who then unleashes his ice magic technique. He is shocked when his opponent easily deflects his attack, while Kai gets ready to retaliate. He calmly closes the distance between him and his opponent, asking if that is all he has got. Andre adjusts his glasses, thinking that his enemy walked straight into the trap without noticing it. It is too late when Kai realizes that he stepped onto a magic circle. Ice quickly spreads around his legs, freezing him in place. Andre laughs and bids farewell to him, then launches his final attack. Kai gets injured in return, and his opponent laughs at his misery, warning him to never provoke a mage. He is mocked by him further as he helplessly remains trapped in the ice. Meanwhile, Rilla tries to provoke their opposing team by ridiculing them more. She reiterates that they should forfeit and surrender now to prevent further humiliation. Luke turns to her and gives her a deadly stare that momentarily shakes her core. Meanwhile, back in the battle, Kai recovers from the attack and shows a lava slime jelly in his hand. Rilla screams for her teammate to back off, but it's too late as they are almost blown away by a massive explosion in the arena. Andre can't believe that the boy set it off right in front of his face, seemingly not valuing his life anymore. Since he is still preoccupied, he doesn't immediately notice that Kai is already behind him, launching an attack. The boy pierces him, causing him to rattle. He can't believe that a martial arts student is wielding a magical weapon. Seeing his burned legs, the audience is stunned by Kai's resolve to get away from the ice prison and defeat his enemy. Tears start streaming down his face, thinking that Luke was right. Once he shattered the spell, the opening would be his. Andre trembles from his injuries and tells Kai to just surrender since he is seriously hurt anyway. He casts another spell, but Kai releases another magical item in his possession. Smirking, he lunges toward his opponent, who is shocked by how insane and determined he is during the duel. He continues to charge at the ice mage, clearly now at an advantage. Andre screams at him to back off. However, Kai leaps into his ice barrier and breaks it using only his sheer strength. He gets thrown to the other side of the arena by the strong impact. He can't believe that his ice shield was penetrated with just brute strength. Motionless because of his injuries, he can't believe that a mere martial arts student is able to defeat him. Kai is announced as the winner of the match. He goes back to his teammates and boasts about how awesome he looked in the arena while defeating his opponent. Meanwhile, Luke remembers how he slipped his homemade absolute power enhancement potion into his classmate's breakfast, giving him a boost of agility and strength. The next fight will be against Tish and Rilla. Rilla still can't believe that her teammate got defeated and insists that Andre just let Kai off the hook because of his rich, noble background. Tish inwardly sneers at her remark, thinking that she is so proud yet unable to accept clear as day defeat. Just then, Rilla launches a surprise attack. Tish manages to dodge it just in time but admits to herself that if she had been hit, she would have been in pieces. Channeling another spell, her enemy points out how annoying the martial arts department is, which always upholds honor and integrity when in fact it should be the results that matter. She creates another spell, commanding sturdy thorny vines to immobilize Tish and trap her. However, the martial artist easily manages to deflect the attack and sees an opening. Tish punches her in the stomach, catching her off guard. She grabs her by the arms and tells her that martial artists have a need to protect what's important to them. Triggered, Rilla tries to cast another spell, unleashing her plants. However, Tish is much more agile and is able to retaliate, targeting her opponent's mana meridian. She walks away gracefully after winning the fight, mentioning that she should not trample a martial artist's pride so much. It is then revealed that Rilla was hiding poison needles in her possession that could have blown the fight out of proportion. Mina asks the council president why he let it happen. He wears a playful smile on his lips, saying that she should relax a bit, and points out that no one was harmed. Meanwhile, Greg is watching the fight from the sidelines, completely humiliated by the results so far. They were supposed to take back the slots for the Allen Tower entry, but instead, they are getting trampled on. Eyeing Luke, Greg contemplates using a technique that will make them win this last duel. The third match finally begins, and Blake doesn't waste a moment and shows off his unbeatable speed among the mages. Unlike his peers, he takes his physical training seriously, hence, he is fast and agile. He defends from long range instead of attacking, while Luke calmly stands in the middle of the arena. Trying to assess his opponent first, Luke doesn't attack immediately. After determining the weak points, he lunges toward his opponent and attempts to strike him, but he misses. Blake is shaken up. For a moment he feels a terrifying presence from the martial artist. However, he won't let it get under his skin and is determined to finish the fight early. He uses his bone-shattering technique on Luke and injures him immediately. He unleashes another spell and manages to strike Luke with it, shattering every bone in his body. It seems like he has the advantage, but to his surprise, it is as if Luke is unscathed by his attacks, and his bone-shattering art doesn't make the man writhe in pain. He attacks some more, thinking that his opponent is just bluffing and hiding his pain. As he unleashes his final attack, Luke grabs his arms and pointedly looks him in the eyes, declaring that it is his turn now to show off. With a stump of Luke's foot, dust rises everywhere. Blake gets confused about how a level 1 martial artist can do something like this. Luke threatens him by saying he can now do anything he wants with him under the cover of the dust. Blake summons a magic sword, only for Luke to pin him to the ground and stab his right arm with his own blade. The pain makes him scream in agony. Luke asks him how it feels to be hurt by the same weapon he used on Collins and Sharp. He then kicks Blake, and he gets tossed across the ring like a football. Blake keeps trying to use mana, but he can't because Luke has blocked his mana pathways. Luke is about to hit him with a punch in the face, but Blake begs him to stop and surrenders before he can. Greg from the stands yells at Blake to continue the fight. Sig thinks Greg is a fool for being unable to see how seriously hurt his student is. With his win, Luke walks outside the ring and to his friends. Tish warns Luke that Blake is right behind him and is about to stab him. Just as Blake strikes, Luke jumps into the air and hits him right at the back of his neck. The hit makes Blake feel like there's something in his body being ripped out. He then faints from the blow. Luke tells him that it is payback for using his bone-shattering art on his friends. The referee announces Luke's total victory. Era is shocked, as she is the only one who realizes that Luke used a rare technique that no martial artist has managed to replicate for 100 years. It makes her more intrigued to know who Luke really is. Later, the martial arts department is in high spirits after the battle. Those who did not participate in the duel feel like they can now take on any mage if they challenge them. Tish tries to tell them that what they did was just a fluke and nothing to be confident about, but the classmates are still high in their confidence. Sig tells them that he is disappointed in them for being so cocky. He tells them that the only reason the martial arts department won in the taming tournament was because the beasts were under extreme stress from being attacked before they went in. He puts it in their minds that they just got lucky then. The class tells their homeroom teacher that they definitely won the duel with their own strength. Sig reminds them that it was only their 3 top students who won the duel, and that they should not be proud when it was not they themselves who won. He asks them if it is really okay if they cannot get revenge on their own if they get attacked like Collins and Sharp. He tells them that if they are okay with this, they will never get stronger. He leaves with the message, telling them that they are better off quitting the martial arts department with this mentality. It leads the rest of the class to swear to get stronger. Luke thinks Sig is smart to share his wisdom. Linda meets up with Sig and tells him that he is starting to sound like a real homeroom teacher. Sig replies that he does not want them to end up like him. Linda gives him Blake's medical record from his duel injury and tells him that it shows that his mana pathways have been damaged by what looks like a forbidden ancient art called Meridian Crusher. Meanwhile, Blake is in the recovery room and is feeling down because he can feel that he can no longer use magic. Blake's father goes to the Allen Academy and barges into the headmaster's office to complain about how his son will never be able to use magic again because of the duel. He demands that the malicious perpetrator be strictly punished and the martial arts department be disbanded. Sig shows himself and agrees that malicious perpetrators should indeed be punished. He informs the father that the magic that Blake and his friends used in the duel perfectly matches the magic used to injure Sharp and Collins, and so it is clear that it is those 3 who are responsible. He urges the headmaster to punish Blake and his friends strictly for it. Greg is frustrated that his students showed so much killing intent during the duel that it made it more obvious that they were the ones who injured the martial artists. Blake's father accuses Sig of changing the subject and says that they should focus on how his son was hit by a forbidden art. Sig thinks it is unlikely that he was hit by the Meridian Crusher since no martial arts student can possibly handle such a technique. Blake's father has no choice but to think this since he cannot see Luke, who was cursed by the gods, to know such a forbidden art. Greg suggests that they should look for a high-level martial artist instead, and suggests to Sig's face that he is the culprit. Sig replies that he would have used the forbidden art on him a long time ago if he knew how to use it. The headmaster asks Sig for a possible explanation if he does not think it was Luke who used the forbidden art. He tells the headmaster that he asked Luke about it, but he flatly denied using the forbidden art. He instead offered an alternative theory about the rumor he heard that Blake paid a black market assassin a fortune to learn how to inflict pain. He believes the assassin he paid must have worried information might be leaked and used the duel to silence Blake. Blake's father is angered that they are even entertaining the rumor that his son has black market connections. Sig admits that it is just speculation, but that it is a more credible hypothesis than that a novice martial artist used an ancient forbidden art. He urges everyone to be on high alert for someone dangerous enough to know the forbidden art of Meridian Crusher. Meanwhile, the old Otani is in the library with a lantern to light his way in the dark. There, he finds the book about the Meridian Crusher. He finds that there is no dust and that this is proof that someone recently held it. He looks inside to the pages, into the sketches showing how to use the technique. He laughs, as the hand gesture is the same as what Luke used in the duel. Meanwhile, Luke is at the Magic Beast Mountain at the hot spring, where he pours a potion on the water where the sleeping Sharp and Collins are. The water glows after the potion is poured in. Collins's and Sharp's muscles slowly heal, but the process gives them pain. Luke hopes that his friends hang in despite the pain. He declares that martial artists can use recovery arts like mages. A few days later, Luke and Julia's parents arrived in Dooku Town. Kath sees the surroundings and gets nostalgic since they have not changed. Holt can tell that just being here makes his wife uncomfortable. Kath assures him that she is fine. A man arrives at the entrance to greet them. Kath is happy to see that it is her younger brother, Cyan. 17 years ago, the Beastman tribes went to war with the Empire. After 3 days of fighting on the Empire border, the human and Beastman armies suffered heavy devastation. It was on the battlefield that the mage Kath and then the young commander of the Holt Knightly Order met. They instantly fell in love and swore to spend their lives with each other. Duke Miranda, Kath's father, was against the marriage and cut all ties with his daughter. Cyan was a child then, sad that his sister had to go. Both siblings catch up and talk about their children, all while Holt follows them. Kath is glad to hear from her little brother that their father acknowledges Julia's existence. Cyan asks that she come to the family estate because their father really wants to see her deep down. He, however, follows up that she can only go to the estate if it is only her. Kath feels bad for her husband, but Holt tells her that it is okay and that he needs to leave for something else anyway. He assures his wife that he is just happy that she gets to go home, even if it means that he is not coming with her. Kath watches as he leaves. Cyan thinks about how admirable Holt is to swallow his pride and secretly ask him for help just to reunite Kath with her father. Cyan regrets that her father still has not forgiven Kath for marrying a martial artist. He hopes that someone will show up who could change the way the world views martial arts. Elsewhere, Luke has just sneezed. He is with Julia and Kai at the banquet hall having lunch. Julia teases Kai for buying someone food for a change. Kai defends that Collins and Sharp actually owed him, and that they should buy him a meal once they recovered. Luke tells him he thinks he is being sweet. Others in the banquet hall are talking about how Luke just got lucky when he won the duel. Julia overhears them, so she comes to their table and scares them. Kai and Luke do not notice that Julia is behind them, making the disrespectful students beg for forgiveness. Julia returns to her brother. Luke notices that she has a new hairpin she is wearing, so Julia tells him that Era gave it to her as a gift from the Miranda family. Luke is not surprised that the Miranda family would want to win over a magical prodigy into their fold. He asks that she get along with Era for their mother's sake. Speaking of their mother reminds Julia to tell her brother that he needs to write a letter to her to tell her that she has become the class rep. Mina approaches Julia and congratulates her for being the class rep. She praises her by telling her that she believes that Julia will be the pillar of the school someday. Era passes just as she hears the conversation. She is in a bad mood as she leaves the banquet hall. Era recalls when her homeroom teacher told her that while she has skills that rival Julia's, Julia is still superior to her in almost all aspects. She asked Era to understand that this is why Julia would be more suited than her for the position of class rep. In the present, it makes Era want to prove to the teacher that she has what it takes to be the class rep. Julia sees that Era looks so mad. She worries that Era might not be eating properly and plans to buy her lunch on the way back. Mina asks Julia if she is close to Era. The girl cheerfully answers that they are because they are roommates and that she admires her incredible mental magic. Mina sees it is time to get serious and activates a magic barrier around their table. Luke recognizes this as a mute magic circle that stops sound from leaking. He asks if Mina came to them for more than just small talk. Mina is worried that Luke is wary of her, but she feels like she will be fine as long as Julia adores her. Mina talks to them about the Beast Mountain range behind the academy and how there seems to be a strange shift in the ecosystem since the number of low-level magical beasts has plummeted somehow. As she tells them this, Luke is sweating. She also tells them about how the Imperial investigation team discovered a high-level magic beast lair 3 days ago. Julia drops her spoon as she realizes that it must be her brother's doing. Luke coughs, making Julia conscious not to slip up about his secret. Luke asks Mina if she wants them to take on a field mission. Mina informs them that the difficulty level is 100 points, making the siblings speechless. Luke agrees to the mission right away. Meanwhile, at the Miranda estate, Duke Miranda is having a meal in the dining hall with his children, yet the atmosphere is silent and awkward. Cyan is the most uncomfortable of all and is thinking about how his father is letting Kath stay in the guest room despite her old room being available. He also notices that Kath has not taken a single bite. The Duke suddenly speaks to Kath to tell her that he is willing to acknowledge Julia as his granddaughter. Kath becomes cheerful as she thanks her father for it and brags about how skilled Luke is, too, at martial arts. The Duke tells her that he does not care about him since the Miranda family only seeks those talented enough to become a sainted archmage. It suddenly occurs to Kath that her father's prejudice against martial artists has not changed. A servant enters to tell the Duke that the investigation team sent to the Magic Beast Mountain Range has new information. Both Kath and Cyan wonder why they are investigating the Beast Mountain Range. The Duke looks at the written information and finds out that a new region has been discovered beneath the mountains. Kath asks if the children at Allen Academy are in danger. The Duke tells them that the academy is not in danger as long as the teachers and his own subordinates are there. He orders Kath to wait until the matter has ended before she sees her children. Kath agrees, but is saddened that she needs to wait a little longer.